The track that Torin was talking about, 7.5 kilometers, and so they're going to do this twice, Torin.
4 times, actually.
4 times, I beg your pardon. 30 kilometers, of course.
It's really a winding course. It's got a lot of climbs. The climbs are undulating in that it's going to go from steep to like sections where there's a little bit of recovery, and they're really going to have to use their strength and then go right back into some really steep climbs. Compared to Soldier Hollow, it's a little steeper, a little bit less climbing, but all in all, it's a super tough course.
Yes, and just to get my earlier words correctly done, I should say that the steepness of the climbs here is greater than in Lahti, but there is actually more climbing here than there was 2 years ago. Well, there's the start list. It's a mass start. Some of you might be wondering why Thomas Olsgaard, whose form this season has been lamentable, is wearing bib number 1. Well, it's altogether to do with the FIS ranking system, and Thomas had a good finish to last season, so he's still carrying a high level of FIS points, and that's why he's wearing bib number 1. So Torin, the main contenders, we've talked a little bit about Verpalou and also Frode Estil, and we've heard from them. I think we both agree that they're fight possibly for that gold and silver medal, but who else do you think might be in the fight?
You know, there's a lot of Norwegians. All 4 Norwegians can be in there. I like Estil the most just because of his technique coming to this course. It's super efficient. He's really good on the really steep climbs. If Anders Auckland has found form, he can be a man. Thomas Olsgaard, I think he's going to find his form a little bit later, just in how he's came into the championships. But he knows he's a big day racer, and he knows how to come on. For an outside shot, I'm going to have to go with Reto Bergermeister of Switzerland. He's really tough. He likes the mass starts. I talked to him earlier, and he was feeling really good, and was second at Oberhof, another course that really mimics this one really well.
Well, I'm going to pick a couple of others to look out for. Jürgen Brink of Sweden, who some people know better as a sprinter, but he was the Otapa 30-kilometer classic mass start winner. And if he's with them when they're coming into the final 100, then he's going to be one of the racers who I think they're all going to fear. As you can see, it is a lot warmer today. Humidity is high. Wind not really any to speak of. The flags in the stadium are pretty still. And the other man I'm going to pick out as an outsider, Vitaly Denisov for Russia, who had not a bad race last Sunday in Asiago. And the Russians not really with too many high hopes here, but Denisov is the man that I think might join your man Bergermeister and Jürgen Brink as 3 lively outsiders.
All right, let's have it now. Your top 3 in order. I'm going to have to go with Verpalou, with Estil's close on his heels, and Matthias Frederiksen rounding out the top 3.
So if you've just come in, a very good morning to you from David Goldstrom and Torin Koos, as we are moments away from the start of the men's 30-kilometer classic mass start race. We've got 67 athletes on the start line from representing 25 countries. The favorite, well, it's Anders Verpalou of Estonia, the defending champion. But he only beat Frode Estil of Norway by 2/10 2 years ago, and he beat him again last year in the 15-kilometer classic at the Olympics by 36 seconds. These two are arch rivals. Torin Koos alongside me thinks that Estil might have the edge because this course might just suit him. What we do know is that Verpalou cannot lead this to a final sprint finish. It's not the only 2 that we're going to look on as they go away to a big roar here in this fabulous stadium at Lago di Tesoro in Trentino, and away we go. And almost immediately as they break out of the tracks after the first 100, you'll be able to see them already going up on the climb to the first of the terraces. And Torin, important to get away well.
Yes, it's looking like the top competitors are wanting to get out very quick, and then I think they're going to settle down and try to feel each other out. You can already see that there's already been several crashes with some of the top racers in the world, just telling you how fast and where they want to be.
Yes, and all the races this season in classic style, we've had 5 different winners, and we've had incredibly close racing in the World Cup, which of course is our guide. On the left there, wearing 4, that's Anders Auckland. He's a real specialist in classic for the Norwegian team, but 7 in fact. Jürgen Brink taking the inside cut there, one of my likely outsiders, and he's got the lead. Now this could be very canny. If Jürgen wants to stay up there and control the pace, that could be really neat.
Yeah, I think that they're really not going to try to push it super hard like in the women's race where it seemed like 2 or 3 just wanted to go from the gun. It's a 30K. I think that the men they're a little more cagier with their racing, and they'll try to wait a little bit longer, wait for something to happen on the second lap and break it open, and then have some big fireworks on the fourth lap.
Well, Torin Kuss and myself, we've got lots to talk about, so stay with us here on Eurosport. If you have just come in, just let me reiterate that Thomas Olsgaard is wearing 1. If you find that strange, well, tall Thomas, who's just moving up there towards the front of the file, he's really relying on the performances from last year that gives him that number 1 bib to his FIS point ranking, not his World Cup points. And Thomas, to be honest, we're not expecting too much from him. He's had a mixture of sickness and backaches and all sorts of things. So if he gets anywhere near the medals, then it'll be a surprise. As you see, a bit of chaos at the start. So back live now. And one of our cameras has suddenly gone a little blue, but I'm sure an engineer will attend to that in a moment. And 4 laps of this 7,500 meter trail. In the red there, that's Thomas Olsgaard. On his right, wearing 2, that's Matti Fredriksson, the World Cup leader, having his best ever season. And to his right was Jürgen Brink of Sweden, it seemed to me. We'll try and pick them all out for you. We've had no notification of any who didn't start. In fact, 18 going up there, didn't spot him, and that is that
Lars Carlson.
Lars Carlson of Sweden, and he's not really one of the... He would definitely be an outsider. But no team tactics. Now, let me tell you about those who are here. Only 4 of the top 10, but some famous names not taking part. Vasily Rotchev, who won the first of the classic races of the season in Kuusamo, not taking part. Jaak Mai of Estonia, who was 7th in Otepää, 8th in Oberhof, and more recently 5th in Asiago, not starting. He's going to concentrate on the 15 and the pursuit. That's why he's not in the race. Likewise for Per Elofsson. If you were with us yesterday, I explained that he feels that he's pretty good. He's not in tip-top shape, and that's the reason why he's also focused on that pursuit race. He's also looking forward to the relay and the 50. Thomas Angera, Rennie Sommerfeld doesn't reckon he's got any chance in classic style. He's going to concentrate on the freestyle. Axel Teichmann, who was 3rd in Kuusamo, 13th in Asiago, we thought he might have competed in this, but not to be. Lukas Bauer of the Czech Republic, the first Czech man ever to win a World Cup race. Well, he was 2nd in Kuusamo right at the beginning of the season, and he's not in the lineup today. And also Giorgio Di Centa of Italy. He's not taking part. Nothing sinister. Unfortunately for Giorgio, he's got flu, which is really bad luck. There is flu in the camp. Sabine Valbuza, who yesterday raced very poorly for Italy, she was asked by Marco Alborello, the team manager, whether she wanted to start. She said she wanted to start. She did start, but he stopped her because she clearly was doing damage to herself. Christina Paluselli also with a little bit of flu. And as Alborello explained to us this morning, Juventus, who are playing Manchester United tonight in the Champions League, they've asked for a deferment of their match. Unfortunately, in this sport, you can't ask for a deferment. You just got to get on with it. And on the right there, it is Matti Fredriksson for Sweden, Carlson in the centre, and it's a line of 3 Swedes with Jürgen Brink closest to you. So Norway and Sweden, always great rivals, but it's been a long time, Torin, since we've really seen this sort of rivalry between the 2 Scandinavian neighbours.
It actually was probably about 1991 on these same trails when the Norwegians started taking over from the great Swedish dominance of the 1980s and early 90s.
Torin, let's talk skis and preparation in a little bit more in detail. You've been down there working it out. Which skis do you choose? What wax do you use?
Well, for all these races, they're going to have about 5 pairs of skate and classic skis.
We'll just pick up that point once again.
Well, so the racers, they're going to have about 5 pairs of skis that they consider like their A pair of skis, and they're for different kinds of conditions. And today, when I'm talking to the different racers and the wax technicians, they're going to choose a softer ski. They call them their butter skis. They're super, super soft because these conditions are going to be changing a lot. Why they're going to go with that? It's going to compromise a little bit of glide for them. But today, having kick and is going to be the way to win this race. In fact, I was talking to some racers, and they said that, in fact, that even if they're going to win, it might come down to the person that's able to make a not perfect ski work all 4 laps. With the conditions rising as they are in the sun, it's going to add like the humidity near 100%, transform the snow, and it's going to be extremely hard to get kicked, especially on the third and fourth laps.
So we're looking for fluid and water on the surface?
Almost just almost a little film in the sun there.
And wax-wise?
Wax-wise, they're going to go with a clister cover, something like a Start Universal, covered with some kind of multi-grade or Blue Extra kind of wax.
So still early days, as you see some of the back markers there, your guide to their positions. We'll try to give you a guide as we go through all the different phases of the race. And we'll also try to give you also a speed guide. There is a speed trap as well, which will give us an idea as to, it's an indication, not more than that, as to whose skis might be working better than others.
On the glide side, they're going to go with a paraffin covered with a pure fluorocarbon wax.
So there's a guide to the equipment use as they're into the first phase of this first 7,500 meter loop. Through the first 2,000 meters, Matty Fredriksson, Carlsen and Jürgen Brink, the three Swedes. Close up, Verpalu with Estil and Olsgaard. Ivan Bathory going well. Andy Schluter for Germany. Oddbjørn Helmset. Christian Sadocco, one of the young Italians. That's a good early start position ahead of Anders Åkerlund. Åkerlund, who would have been one of my favourites, Torrin, for today's race. But he's been, as they say, something on the downward curve recently.
Yeah, he hasn't shown the form that he can. He's a great racer. He's actually been a world champion in several different sports. Winter triathlon, Norwegian champion in both cross-country running and trek. He's got the capacity to be the top racer, especially in the classic technique.
And we've also, of course, got in the lineup today Mikhail Ivanov of Russia, who won the Olympic 50K Classic after the disqualification of Johan Muleg last year. That's always hard to say because he really did deserve to win it. Not just because I tipped him, but sadly for all of us, Ivanov is not in the form that he was. Now, he's had sickness, that's not unusual in this sport, but maybe after being at the top, and you can't get much higher than being the 50-kilometer classic Olympic champion, maybe the motivation wasn't quite there after all the celebrations. But it's Grushin's boys, Alexander Grushin, who looks after the men's team. He's got Ivanov, Denisov and Vilasov. Those are the three main contenders, and we'll try to give you an idea. At the moment, early on, it was Vilasov who was in the 17th position, about 4 seconds off the pace. So nothing to really worry about at that point. And just going further down the track, a little bit of movement up front now, Torrin.
Yeah, it seems like the pace is, it's solid, but nothing spectacular. The whole group staying together here.
And that's just trying to pick out that looked to be Helmset. Yeah, Oddbjørn Helmset, who's had a slow start to the season, but he was fifth in this particular race in Lahti 2 years ago. And third, of course, in the Olympic 50-kilometer Classic. And 11th, more importantly, in the last two Classic races we've got. So there have been signs of Oddbjørn just recovering his form.
It seems like the whole Norwegian team's kind of starting to come into form here in the last end of January, February. There was a lot of questions coming in before Christmas time. It's kind of like the Prime Minister of Norway makes a bad decision. There's not a question, but if the Norwegian national ski team's not racing well, there's a lot of questions out there.
Very interesting, though, that in the Norwegian cross-country championships, Frode Andersen was showing up so well, but the old wall of the old dividing wall went up between the cross-country skiers and the biathletes. Never a biathlete shall come into our land again. It's a bit sad, really, because I know it would be nice if we saw the likes of Bjørndalen and Frode Andersen in the squad, and my goodness, that would make a difference to their relay team.
Yeah.
So up front, is that Andy Schluter? Could well be Andy. Just trying to pick out at the moment. Difficult. These bib numbers are mighty small, but that looks to be Andy Schluter there for Germany, who's got the lead at the moment. So the early Swedish burst has been repelled. Verpalu there on the far side of just about in sharing third place.
Right there with Matthias Fredriksson and Frode Steele. So we got our big name players up front controlling the pace.
And it is Estil who takes the advantage now. And there'd be, suppose, some justice if Frode can get his revenge on Verpalu. because just thinking back to the race back in Lahti in 2001, it wasn't a mass start like this. It was a normal time trial, traditional time trial, and in fact Estill was going off later than Veerpalu and failed to close. Really, he got to within 2/10.
And I think with Frode Estill showed us a lot in the Olympics there in the one-day pursuit, and how his kick, him and Thomas Alsgaard came from back and made something happen.
So if he's retained that, and he's been right there in the World Cup runners-up, World Cup races leading up to these championships. 4 kilometers. And bottom of the screen there, you can see the leaders going through. Sirocco doing a great job there for the Italians at the moment, Christian Sirocco. That's a really good piece of running by him.
On the Italian side, Valbuza is not racing today.
Yeah, but I gather that Albarello and Valbuza had a chat about that. Disappointing for the fans. Valbuza felt that he couldn't actually compete at 30 kilometers. Distance too long, so he's saving his energy for the 15, the pursuit, and the relay.
He could be an outside shot in that pursuit for sure.
And I think what we've seen here already with so many defections is really the wrong word. Selection would be the more appropriate word. The program, Torren, now is so demanding that maybe you have to specialize.
I think so. You're looking at six races over just one championship. You're coming off of a long season, and a 50K is coming at the end. And if you're looking at some of those later distances as being some of your top events, it pays to choose wisely.
New leader, Anders Södergren, 15th in the World Championships a couple of years ago. He was 2.5 minutes behind the best then, giving himself a better chance of staying up there now. This season, he's been 4th in Konya in the 30-kilometer mass start race there, and also had a season's best in Ramsau in the pursuit. So not to be completely ruled out, Anders Södergren.
And it's interesting now that this is the first time a championship men's event has ever been in a mass start. It kind of maybe allows some other individuals into the spotlight here.
Well, you certainly know what the race pace is, and it's going to. I think it's going to be interesting when we get to the halfway stage. I think that's really where we're going to see this unfold. It could be a race of two halves, which is establishing your rhythm, controlling everything, and then going into the second half.
Yeah, and I think what we're going to see is people that are able to make some moves later in the race are going to try to break it open.
So it is at the moment Anders Södergren who leads. Just a reminder of our email site for your questions, and we'd be happy to have them. It's ski@infovoice.de. That's ski@infovoice.de. And we'll be back with more live action from the men's 30K after this.